Okay, let's see if we can get some help for how to actually build these functions for this assignment. The main thing to realize is that here we're dealing with functions that are both receiving data from the main program and they are returning answers. So now the function solves a problem rather than just like output something. And then you have to think about your functions a little bit differently. So let's just say, as an example, again, the examples for functions, and this is true if you learn online as well, they're always so simplistic. And then you think to yourself, well, I don't need a function that can do that because Python can, like, let's just say we want to find out the sum of some numbers. And you're like, Python can find out how to add numbers all by itself. It really doesn't need my help. And so the things we do in functions are a little bit artificial for now as we learn them. Um, but we can say num1 plus num2, right? So we're just getting a variable that can add two numbers together, and then we can return that number to where it came from. So this is now, we wrote a function that is accepting two parameters, or that has two parameters in it. And we're going to call those parameters num1 and num2. It's going to say, okay, you sent me a 5 and a 3, so I'll add them together and get 8. And then I'm going to send back to the main code the number 8, or whatever it happens to calculate, right? And so down here in our main code, we need, we're using functions. And so maybe we would make, up here, we would say, hey, we would like to ask the user, and of course the assignment, you're not going to ask the user, but this is just an example. We're going to say, can you give us a number? And then we're going to say, give us another number. And then we want to do something with this number, so we're going to be like, oh boy, I wish I could add them together. So if only there's a way to find how to add two things together. Like maybe I can send it this function. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I have a function that can add numbers together, so I don't know how to add numbers together, but the function called sum, it knows how to add numbers together. And so up here, hey, I can sum these two numbers. And down here, what you're saying is, I have these two numbers, x and y, and I want to find out what they add together, right? And then when they come back, I want to print what that answer is. And so this is how functions send information and then get information back. The idea is you don't have to know those complex calculations that happen inside a function. You just need to know the answer of the function, and there we go. Now imagine that this was a function that actually did something complicated, that solved some, really big long formula, and then every time you wanted to solve that formula, you could ask it, to do it. So for instance, there are functions in math, for instance, to find the cosine or the sine of a number. Now no one wants to do that, type out those things every time they want to find it. So in this case, it would be a lot easier to, just create a function that can do the cosine, and then you can use it instead of every time you want to do a cosine of something. Of course, there is a built-in function. Somebody did it for us. We don't have to do that ourselves. Now, there's a few things on here that I wrote very clunky, but let me talk about a few other items. If you get this and you're like, that's good enough, you could probably stop here. I'm going to go into a little bit of information to help people if you're struggling to understand functions. In fact, let me stop this here and make a new tips video for people who want to go on and learn more.